Hello and welcome to Campaign Craft. I'm DM Sleeper, that's really my name, and in a recent campaign, I took my party through a large-scale battle, and the way that I set this up was a necromancer had summoned an army of the dead and besieged the hub city. The party had to fight their way strategically through a series of obstacles or battle encounters on the battlefield to get to the necromancer and then to address the situation with him. And to set up the large scale of the event, I knew I needed way more skeletons than I already had, and I didn't want to go and buy more of the monster brand minis that I've reviewed in the past. So to address my needs, I purchased the ArcKnight Skeleton Horde. Let's get into the review. The skeletal army came with a plethora of figures. Just to give you a taste, you have plenty of birds. This warrior on a horse, and if you look on the back, you see the art, the silhouette matches on both sides. There are more of these birds, of course, but this is just one of many sets in the group or types of figures. You have spearmen. Again, you have front and back art for the spearmen. You have 8 swordsmen, and you notice the art is different for all of them. It's unique art for every single figure, or for every single figure, the art is unique. So a small horde of skeleton swordsmen here, all look different front and back from each other. So this isn't skimping in the art department. It's actually exactly what I would want from a set like this, and it gives a variety that most miniature packages don't give. You have these little animal skeletons here, a couple of wolves, and what I imagine is a monkey. And if they had faced this one, he would have stolen their things. You have spell-casting skellies over here. And again, the art is different. Look at this art. There's great attention to detail here. And they look creepy. The magic is coming out of its mouth and arcing over this one's head. They have some sort of a scythe on the back over here. This is just great art. And what I love about this is the artist is actually centered in my home state of Texas. And that's more than a little bit of a note of pride there. There are these little mini boss figures, like this big beefy swordsman here that looks like someone you fight in Ocarina of Time. And of course the skeleton swordsman or horseman that I depicted before. But then you have boss monsters, and they are big. Like to compare, this is the swordsman, that's the boss, and this is what I am calling the mini boss. So you have not just variety of artistically, you have variety in terms of utility and things you can accomplish with it. Like, look at this cyclops skeleton and this giant bone worm. Oops, it's backwards. And this giant bone worm. So as far as art goes, and we'll just kick this off with aesthetics, the art's superb. I would give the art a 10 out of 10 easily. And kudos to our small business owner in Dallas-Fort Worth area who made these. Good job, dude. Keep it up. One complaint I do have, though, and this, it's a small business, so you'd expect this to a degree, but you have a little bit of an anomaly here with the build quality. If you'll see, that skeleton's foot is actually cut off there. It's not quite reaching the entire edge, and it's just a tiny little edge of the foot that's missing, but it's more for this dude here. So the art actually got cut off in the mini, and I had to pop these out of their molds, and it was just disappointing that part of the art happened to be left behind on the plastic. That was a disappointment to me. So the build quality is taking a hit, and not just for that. I was about to put these into storage, But look at that. He doesn't even have a foot. He's walking around on a nub. Poor guy. Still better than the Limbo Dude in my last Monster Minis review. But the problem with it is you have this. The problem with the build quality was I was about to put them into storage, and my wife said, "You better make sure that you're not gonna, or you better be careful storing those because the paint will rub off." I was like, "No, the paint is sandwiched between two laminate layers." I was wrong. The lamination, quite thin lamination actually, which is fine. It does a good job for itself. It's not shoddy. It's not weak, but it scratches off. I used the part of the foot that was cut off to test it, and the paint will scratch off. So don't store these flat against each other. I actually found a Ritz cracker box, and I put them all on their stands, and I just had them sitting in my cracker box together, which is a little bit disappointing considering you want something flat to store flat because it makes it more beneficial for storage. But it just wasn't the case with this one. So build quality is taking a hit for me. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And again, that's not for the thinness of it. I saw a lot of reviews on Amazon like, oh, it's too thin. No, I don't care how thin it is. But connected to that is utility. And the utility, which in one of my previous reviews I said versatility, utility covers that and more. So these guys are great on their stands. Their stands are heavy enough so that they don't tip over easily. But the problem with the stands is they come with 8 of them. And if you want to do an encounter with 8 enemies, that's fine. And you'll have plenty of monsters for that one encounter. But if you want to do a large-scale battle, you're going to have to take some other measures for that. And what I did was I built these foam bases by tracing some little wooden circles onto my crafting foam, my foam core poster boards, and I cut a little slit in it to put the stand in, and so it stands up. The problem with this solution being it's way too light. And maybe if I glued the wooden circles to the bottom, it would give it some weight, and then it wouldn't be a problem. But the fact that I have to think about that is a problem. I would much rather have a item that cost $5 more and came with enough stands for all the minis, instead of making me pick which 8 minis I want from the encounter or find a solution of my own. So really, you're not buying however many minis this comes with. You're buying 8, and they transform, which is good, but not what I'm purchasing when I see the label. Wish it came with more bases. So the utility is also going to be a 5 for me, and we could probably bump that up. It might deserve more utility because really these guys are great. They have a lot of versatility. So if I was looking at it just as in terms of what it came with, that'd be a 5. But I'm going to give this a 7 on account of the versatility of these guys. And looking at the fact that I can have all sorts of different boss fights, I can have little undead birds pestering the party while a boss is menacing them, and I could even throw in some archers, keeping them busy from a distance, and then I could put a bunch of grunt soldiers up at front to like, you get the picture. This is a lot. This is a big offering, and it's got a whole bunch to like. And you can create really complex scenarios. Like I put my foot soldiers up front, my archers in the back, my boss in the middle, and then suddenly for $20 you have the makings of so many complex and interesting boss fights from one kit, and you're not going to run out of those complex and interesting boss fights. You take this guy and you make him ride in with these carrion birds in his wake, ready to feast upon his fallen foes, and then you can put a spellcaster lagging behind, and then he could be driving before him his thralls, and you have an intense battle waiting to happen. Lots of utility held back by the lack of discs. 7 out of 10. It could have been a 9 or an 8 if it had only had enough discs to account for it. As far as value goes, I mentioned this already. These only cost $20. $20. $20 for all these minis? That is way more than a mini $1. That is way better of a deal than you're going to get anywhere else. And the only thing holding it back is the fact that, well, let me score the value. 10 out of 10, easy. You're not going to find a better deal other than in like similar offerings. And the fact that it's 3D and not the 2D tokens, or they're not 3D, they are 2D, but instead of sitting flat, they stand up and you can look at them like a mini. That's awesome. 10 out of 10 for value. One thing dragging it down, though, is wow factor. Because they're flat. And what I mean by that is, yeah, if you have an army of the undead or you just see this really cool art, it's epic. But one thing about wow factor is if something detracts from the campaign at large, or the story at large, or the game at large, the wow factor takes a hit. And at one point during my session of play, the party was discussing which set of enemies to attack next, and one of them suggested going up against the bone serpent, and my wife, one of the players, says, "What bone serpent?" And I have to reach into the table and turn this one sideways so she can see. So it's part of the nature of the beast with what you're getting, and if you know what you're getting, it's not going to be a problem for you. But the fact that it's flat means it's going to be hard to see, and maybe if you had like a cross-section piece and it cost more money, sure, and you'd see 4 sides instead of 2, it would be better. But wow factor is going to take a hit because it detracts from play at times, and that could be added to utility, but I'm going to take it as wow factor because it detracts from the spectacle of it. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for wow factor. 6 out of 10. And if I'm doing my math right, which I might not be, we're looking at a 7.6 total score. 7.6, not too shabby. Go check out the Texas-made ArcKnight miniatures for your next undead campaign. And they don't just have zombies. They have or skeletons. They have everything you could imagine. What I needed was skeletons. Well, I'm DM Sleeper. That's really my name. And I hope this helps you craft your campaign.